So the starting point for the screencast today is the Sport England market segmentation tool. If you don't know how to find this, just put into your search engine Sport England market segmentation, and the search results will bring up this page for you. So we've landed on the landing page here. I'm assuming in this session that you've looked at market segmentation previously in the course, maybe in your first and second years. What we're going to look at today is some things that sit behind some of this data, which we can use for kind of marketing planning, but also strategic facility planning. But the first thing I want us to do is to get a segmentation profile for the local authority area that you're working on. So remember, for the assessment, you're asked to choose a local area, and it's much easier if you make this a local authority area. Last week, we looked at the census age breakdowns and population forecasts, and we used that to help us determine demand. What we're going to look at today is how you can use a segmentation profile, and how you can use that combined with some other market segmentation data on sport participation to generate estimates of demand in a local area. So the first thing that I want you to do is to click on the segments tab, and you will probably have seen this before. Now, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page here, I want you to make sure that you've got the local authority set as your area of interest. Now, I'm just clicking on Blackburn with Darwen because that's where I grew up. You would need to click on the local authority of your choice. And all we're going to do is click on dominant segments. So make sure dominant segments has got that orange border around it, and then click on search. And what this does is it brings up a map of the dominant segments, which is very interesting, but it's not what we need for our purposes. So what I'm going to ask you to do in order to get to the segmentation profile for your area is click here on this tabular data option. Okay, and when you click on this, you can see that down this column we have the 19 Sport England market segments. Here we have the catchment population, okay, and here we have the percentage of people that are in that particular catchment area. Okay, so remember, this is for the population aged over 16. Okay, so this gives us the breakdown, and there are also comparisons to the county, the region, and the nation. So we can see that in Blackburn there are some segments such as Kev here, who is present in much greater numbers in Blackburn than he is in the national average, and also segments like Leanne, there are quite a few more Leannes. But if we look at people, segments like Alison or Helena, then there are fewer of those segments in the Blackburn Local Authority District. Okay, now it's excuse me, it's really this catchment area that we are going to be working on, and what you might want to do, you're going to have to enter this information onto a spreadsheet later on in this screencast, before you come to the seminar. So what you might want to do is just click on the export results options and click on save tabular data in CSV format. This means that you will be able to open the data in Excel. So here's one that I downloaded earlier, and what we're going to use is we're going to use either the catchment population or the catchment percentage figures here. So that's what we're interested in. So once you've downloaded that, perhaps you could save it to your home space in the folder that you've set up for this module, and label it Market Segmentation Profile. Okay, so once you've done that, we are finished really for the time being, with the market segmentation website. What we used to be able to do was you used to be able to download some of the raw data, which used to sit behind some of the kind of some of these processes that enabled you to generate profiles. This isn't available anymore. You have to email Sport England and request a copy. But what I've done is I've already downloaded this and saved it for you in the week 4 folder on the module Blackboard site. So we'll look at that in a minute. The other thing as well is it's just worth, if you haven't looked at this, clicking on things like frequently asked questions, because this tells you a bit of background information about how the segments were generated and what the data is based on. It's not critical, but you might be interested in looking at that. Okay, so now we've got our segments profile, which we've saved. And so the next thing that I want you to do is to go to the week 4 folder in learning materials, and you will be able to, if you scroll down, you'll be able to locate this file, the Sport England Market Segmentation Index Tables. Okay, so this is the main file that we are going to be extracting data from. So I've already got this open, so just let me click on this, and perhaps you could open this and look at it. I'm just going to hide the toolbar so we can see in a little bit more detail. This gives us some information on the front page, which we could go into some detail on, but I don't think it's really necessary. What we're going to look at primarily is the summary percentage tab. Okay, but before we look at that, I'm just going to explain just a little bit of information in terms of background. So I'm going to click on the detailed tab, and if we click here, what we can see is that previously, when we've used census data, what we've said is the prime determinant of demand and participation rates is age. So age is one factor which can determine participation rates, but what we can see here is that the segments that Sport England have developed with Experian, and really I should say that Experian developed for Sport England, is based on a number of factors. So here we can see all the factors that are taken into account in structuring these segments. So there's marital status, home ownership, there's kind of employment status, there's kind of households with children. There's this mosaic information, and what we can see is that this is a classification of different types of neighbourhoods. Okay, and as we scroll down, we can see that it's got kind of different ethnic origins. Okay, and it's got different kind of patterns of participation, different cultural activity, some of the media that they look at, and their satisfaction with their sporting experience. Okay, so there's a lot of information that goes into this, but what we can see is that, for example, if we look at the Ben market segment profile and we look at the neighbourhood types, this shows us the kinds of neighbourhoods that Ben lives in. So Ben lives in these kind of the most common areas are these symbols of success and happy families, together with urban intelligence. So Ben is a more middle class version of really Jamie, and Jamie is less likely to live in kind of areas of success type areas, and more likely to live close to home and in kind of blue collar, kind of working class areas. So this helps us understand some of the background. So this tells us that, you know, over a quarter of Ben's lives in kind of in reasonably affluent areas, whereas far fewer Jamies live in those kinds of areas. So this helps us understand and determine different types of participation patterns. So you don't need to be able to explain this and talk about this in a lot of detail. You just need to understand that that market segmentation gives us more detail and allows us to have a more kind of powerful predictor of participation than just what age group someone belongs to. So Ben and Jamie overlap to some degree in their age groups, in the age that they are, but some of their participation is quite different, and that's determined by things like their income, the kind of areas that they live in, their kind of employment status, and all these different things. So this is a more sophisticated way of understanding participation in sport, and it replaces the old kind of age, gender, ethnic breakdowns that we used to have when trying to do targeted marketing and sport development work. So anyway, the main tab that we're going to be working on is this summary percentage tab. So what I would like you to do is just to have this summary percentage tab open. Okay, and just to illustrate this point, this shows us that Ben and Jamie do overlap to a large extent in the age groups that they are based in, which is kind of 18 to 25 and 26 to 35. But their participation patterns may be quite different because of some of the factors we've talked about in terms of their difference in their neighbourhood areas that they might live in, their kind of, you know, that Ben is less likely to be a student than Jamie is. Ben is more likely to be employed and less likely to be a student than Jamie, So these things will all affect their participation in sports. Now, what we're really interested in, and if we just take a minute, I'm just going to freeze the panes on this so it's easier for us to see as we scroll down. What we want to do is we want to scroll down, and because you're looking at individual sports, the information on individual sports begins here below row 90. So here we've got data on participation in all these different sports. So just thinking about the group that we've got, we know that we've got people who are interested in looking at football. Okay, so if we look at football, this gives us the participation rates for the different market segments. So Ben and Jamie are high participants at 33.3 and 28%. So in the 4 weeks before they were interviewed, over around a third of Ben's and 28% of Jamie's had played football. Now it's a male-dominated sport, so we can see that some of the female equivalent market segments have got much lower participation rates. and we can see that Philip and Kev, sorry, Tim and Kev and Philip are also, reasonably high participating market segments. So here we can see that we've got a percentage participation rate for those sports. If we think back to the tab or the data that you downloaded for your population profile, what you can see is we've also got the number of Bens, Jamies, Chloes, all the market segments that there are within your catchment area. So clearly what we're able to do, based on what we looked at last week, is combine information on the population size with the number of people with the participation rates for individual sports. Okay, so here we've got football. We've also got people in the group that are looking at swimming. So we can see the swimming participation rates, and we can see quite a different kind of profile across the market segments for the for swimming participation rates, and we've also got someone in the group looking at tennis. So here we have the participation rates for all the sports that we need. Now, if I click on this little plus here, and I'm then going to unclick it, this just tells us what the data source is. So the data source is the Active People Survey, okay? And the Active People Survey was the survey that Sport England conducted before the Active Lives survey took over. So Active People ran up to and including 2015 and 2016, and 2016-17 is the start of the Active Lives survey. What we can see here is that this data is from the 2015 Active Lives survey. This market segmentation data has not been updated since 2010. So that's something that we might discuss in the seminar when we talk about the implications of the data that's used for market segmentation. Okay, so I'd like you to keep this open as well, and make sure that you have a laptop when you come to the seminar. Okay, we've nearly finished the screencast now, but there's just one thing that there's one more thing that I want you to do. Just to get ready for the seminar, what I'd like you to do is to download this market segmentation workbook to your laptop and have access to it when you come to the seminar. So here I have downloaded the market segmentation profile. Okay. All I want you to do is just to copy the percentage and the total number figures for your local authority that you downloaded. So this is the segmentation profile that you downloaded previously. So what I'm asking you to do is just to go to this segmentation profile, and this asks for, the first column asks for the percentage in each market segment. So we're just going to copy that, go to this document and paste in these figures. Okay, so now we've got the percentage figures. Okay, and the next thing that I want you to do then is just to go to the segmentation report and copy the catchment population figures. Okay, so here we go. If we copy that and paste that into the spreadsheet. Okay, so there we are. That's as far as I want you to go. What we're going to be doing in the seminar is we're going to be, so now what we can see is we've got the percentage number in the catchment population. This is automatically updated into this spreadsheet for you. We've got the total number of people who fall under each segment. So what we're going to be doing in the seminar is just combining the segment participation rates, and this will give us the total number of participants that we've got from each segment in the given sport. Okay, so just quickly, what we're going to be doing in the seminar then is using some of this market segmentation information. So for example, we could copy the participation rates for each of these segments for golf, if we were looking at golf, okay, and we'd paste it into these cells here, and this would help us understand the total number of participants. Okay, so that's what we're going to be discussing in the seminar this week. That's what we're going to be working on, and we are also going to be comparing the results that you get from this method, the total visits that you're going to generate, with the two methods that we looked at in the gross demand session last week. That is both for the total population figure and the figure that was generated when we broke the population down into different age groups and used participation rate and frequency of participation rate data for each of those age bands. Okay, so that is really the end of the screencast for this week. So I'm going to stop recording now. And I will see you in the seminar next week. Thank you.